So my name is Ernest, and I'm a teacher here at Dixon High School. I guess my first classes and tournaments, I started when I was probably 4, but we did karate since I was a baby. I watched the classes in my crib. My dad was probably my biggest role model.
I think it was a pretty normal father-son relationship. But, you know, we had great times and some bad times. I think we were pretty close. I think it was a fun time.
How was he in high school and college, and how was he as a student?
As a student?
Yeah.
He was a social kid. He was quiet, but he always seemed to get along with kids around him, and he'd always have a gang of kids he was running around with. And as far as his academics goes, he'd mix his activities with his academics. He was not one of the kind of kids that just studied. He had to apply himself, and he always did his best to get good grades. He was never the kid at the very top, but he was always trying to keep his grades up.
Mm-hmm. No. The funny thing about fighting is it's rewarding while you're in there, and it's socially rewarding, but financially and physically it tears you up. Even pro fighters, some of the best fighters on earth, UFC guys, if they're not the #1 guy, they get paid like $30,000 a year, which is less than a teacher. They're kind of like slaves to their sport. It's a nasty business.
He worked for my wife and my stockbroker, and he got a. That's how he got in the door to that. And that was in Napa. It was Merrill Lynch, and it was a pretty busy stockbrokerage office. I think he learned a lot from that. It's kind of interesting because it was kind of a greedy place, and I think maybe it turned him off a little too. So maybe he saw the other end of finance.
And what made you want to go to New York and become a stockbroker?
Money. I wanted money.
Where were you at the time of the attack on the Twin Towers?
Okay, I was back. I just returned from New York, and I was at Solano. No, I was at my house, and I went to Solano that day. And I was supposed to go into work at Merrill Lynch in Napa after school, but everything was closed.
So did that event inspire you to change your career path in any way?
It really did. Yeah, so I thought that I'd always come back to stockbroking, but after that I decided instead of going to New York and going to New York schools, I was going to stay here, and I was going to try to do something to kind of get in the military, or maybe retaliate against the people who blew up the Twin Towers. My dad convinced me not to go in the military. Instead, he said transfer to Davis and at least graduate from college before you do that, or we'll find something else for you to do.
During 9/11, when the terrorist attack happened, many kids in that age group decided that they needed to save the world, type of thing. And you see a lot of people going toward fire and peace officers, FBI, CIA, because it's just like, how can I get control over this horrible thing that happened? And a lot of people applied their education, I think, to trying to do something about it. And I think Ben might have been one of those people that wanted to be, you know, go toward criminal justice at the time.
So the only job that I really pursued straight out of Davis was the FBI. And then when I did my interviews with the FBI, I got pretty far, and in the end they said that there was a placement for me, but it was translation. It was a translation job where I'd sit in a van and translate translate people's conversations for 10 or 12 hours a day. And it was, I couldn't do it. I'm an outside kind of guy.
And you went to the FBI?
He was, yes, I think his goal was to get to the FBI, and he had actually gone to the FBI office and talked to the route that he'd have to go to do that. But he wanted the exciting part. He didn't want the person behind the desk. He wanted to be out there, you know.
They said I'd have to do that for 2 years before I could go out in the field.
And is that what made you go to the police department?
Yeah, so they said, you don't have to sit in that van, we can still pick you up if you go to a police department. The police department they liked the most was the CHP. They have the most rigorous testing and everything. So I went through the CHP testing, it took a year. Lie detector tests, physical tests, they hook you up with the patches and make you run. They do everything. Full days of psychological tests. And then after, they were getting me ready to go to the academy, and Fairfield offered me a job for more, a lot more, so I went to Fairfield. I was still greedy.
How did you feel about him giving up a job with the FBI or with the local police to be a teacher?
I was really surprised.
And what made you get into teaching rather than staying as a police officer?
Okay, so this is Fairfield kind of changed my view of the world. So instead of being greedy and wanting kind of everything for myself and not thinking much about other people, seeing what was going on in Fairfield with the children there and the people your guys' age made me think that my life might not be better if I had more money, it just might be better if the people around me were better. And some big events there were basically gang violence and kids dying that made me start thinking, this is not right.
Do you feel that he's helping change kids' lives for the better? Like when he worked at Main Prairie or now that he's at Dixon High, do you think he changed people's lives?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've been real proud of Ben. I've had a chance. Some of the Main Prairie kids ended up coming here, taking karate, and you know, Main Prairie has a gamut of kids, from kids that are really quite troubled, some that are, in my opinion, destined for jail, all the way to kids that are just great kids that got off track with their grades a little bit, and they're getting a chance to bring their grades back. So he's had a chance to work with those kids, and honestly, he had such a great attitude, probably better than I would have had with them, and really positive.
And what was your first impression of teaching, like at Main Prairie?
Okay, so yeah, so I started subbing to clear my head out a little bit and try to help a little bit. And so when I got to Main Prairie, I noticed, hey, these kids are doing the same things as the kids that are in Fairfield, except they're at an earlier stage. So if I sit there with them for 8 hours a day or whatever and can talk to them and have more time with them, then maybe they won't be stabbing each other, shooting each other, fighting each other when they get older. And what I noticed is it was working, so I liked it.
So did you feel like you made an impression on them?
Yeah, and it was worth the pay cut. It was like a third of the pay, but it made my life better.
The kids that came here really seemed to look up to Ben, and were really making an effort to bring up their grades, to bring up their lives. One of them had been involved with drugs and alcohol, and it stopped. One had been stealing some stuff, and it stopped. So yeah, I think that really he did. I think he felt that he had found a place where he could really help people.
And do you have any future plans? Do you plan to stay teacher?
I really didn't, but now I have kids. So yeah, I do. There's no FBI or moving to New York when you have babies.